What's up, everybody? John-Eric Polai here with My MMA News, and today's guest just defeated Aaron Pico at Bellator 286 in what was a crazy and wild finish to a fight. We're going to break all that down here today with today's guest, Jeremy Kennedy. Jeremy, thanks for being here, man. Really appreciate the time, and congrats on the win. I know there's a first time for everything. I'm sure it was the first time you've been a part of a wild, crazy finish like that.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. Again, yeah, it's a win, but it's kind of not the way anybody wants to win or any way anybody wants a fight to go. It just you can't control these kind of things, so it is what it is.
And just in case there is somebody out there that happened to miss what happened, which I'd be shocked if anybody missed it because it kind of went viral. Aaron Pico actually separated his shoulder, dislocated a big shoulder injury that he had in the middle of the fight. At one point in the fight, he's actually reaching on, trying to snap it back into place while he was against the fence. Then in between rounds, his coach is trying to do it. So as all this is happening, obviously, you being the athlete now kind of has to get asked this type of question. How good's the win feel? Because normally, whenever a fighter has a victory, you're smiles, you're happy. I'm sure you are to a degree, but then you kind of get those questions out there of like, oh well, what if he had hurt his shoulder, and you have to rematch and all that type of stuff. So how does this win feel, given the weird way how this kind of ended?
Yeah, I mean it's hard because it's like it's marked as an official win, but to me, like, I know there's still a lot of fight left in the both of us, in that fight in general. A lot of questions still weren't answered. So a little bittersweet, but you get two checks, you get your win bonus, injury free, and activity was my biggest thing going into this fight. Is after having my last one fall through and not fighting since December, I was just wanted to fight and keep the momentum going. So this is just kind of another little bump, and then the momentum still continues. 2-fight win streak now. I just wish Aaron all the best in his recovery. Can't be easy. I know it's unfortunate, for me, but I couldn't even imagine for him, that early. I know he put in the same amount, just as much of a training camp as I did. And then for it to end that way, it's just kind of, you got to feel for him. And I'm sure he's got a road to recovery after. I don't know what that would look like after they were, pulling on it and tugging on it while it was injured. I don't know the extent to those injuries, but couldn't have been good for it. And yeah, we rely on our bodies. So it's more so, I just kind of feel for him. For me, I mean, I got a round, in 10 months, I got one round of MMA in me. So I just kind of wanted to get rebooked right away. And it is what it is. There's one of those circumstances that I came out injury free. I got both my paychecks, and I'm ready to move on.
Yeah, we're gonna kind of touch on everything from the fight now to future matchups and that down the road. Let's start here with the fight itself. Like I had mentioned before, there was that clip that Bellator shared when Aaron was trying to literally get his shoulder back into place while he was up against the fence. You were actually going for a takedown in that moment, which you did end up securing and dominate it from there. When all that was going on, did you notice at all that his shoulder was injured? Or for you, obviously, so much is going on, you're just trying to focus on dominating the round. Did you realize that he was hurt at any point?
No, I didn't. I was just kind of, exactly, focusing on getting my job done, getting out of there, putting him away. But I kind of knew halfway through the round, as the round was going, like I have all the respect for Aaron. So I know he's a tough guy, and some of those takedowns and just the controlling was just getting easier. So I was just wondering, I thought in the back of my head just for a split second, like something must be up, like this doesn't seem like the type of guy that I was expecting or the type of grappling exchange I was anticipating. And then obviously after, in between the rounds, it all kind of came piecing together. Doctors were in there looking at it and whatnot. But during the round itself, he had a pretty good poker face in the sense of, defending when he could and then trying to do whatever he could while, in compromised positions. And then it kind of did help him that, I secured the back and we were on that back with the hooks in, kind of a little bit less taxing on his arm, where if it was a different position, maybe he wouldn't have been able to protect himself as much, where with the back, he was kind of coasting and kind of holding and trying to ride out the round just to kind of get it fixed in between rounds is what I assume. but yeah, I had one goal, and I was just going after it. That was it. Was just trying to get that finish and just win every position, win every second of that fight. So I wasn't really concerned about what was hurting him or what wasn't.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like, obviously, we know injuries happen in the sport. This whole entire thing has been crazy, but obviously, in the lead up to it, you were busting your butt in the gym, putting in all these hours of preparation. You had a game plan in place. Obviously, we know that, okay, it wasn't 100% halfway through that round or whatever, but were you still happy with your performance through that round? I imagine that you were, because obviously you did what you had to do. You dominated the round, and I'm sure probably from all the drills that you did in the lead up to it, you have to be happy with kind of the way how things kind of, played out to a degree.
Yeah, definitely. Like a lot of those sequences that happened is exactly what I worked on. From the counters on him coming in to my level changes to the entries on the shots to even I was planning on taking the back just to slow him down, and he's very good at scrambling because of his freestyle wrestling and his wrestling pedigree. And so I wanted to really make it more of a jiu-jitsu rather than a wrestling match. So I was trying to slow him down, get the hooks in, play it more technical. And so that was all working for me. I was able to secure the back, get my body triangle, really work my choke, and make it more of a jiu-jitsu sequence rather than a wrestling sequence. So I was happy with it all, but again, it's hard to be overly happy and celebrate a big victory when it comes in the way it did. So I'm just more grateful that I wasn't injured. I came out injury free, and I'm ready to keep trekking and keep going and keep getting these fights. I love this division, man. So I'm just like eager to get these matchups booked. I was already on the horn of Ali and talking about the fight and talking to him about what's next, and just excited, man. That's it.
And we're going to get into what's next in just a little bit here. One more, I guess, question with this whole entire weird sequence and whatnot. Obviously, in between rounds is when his coaches are now trying to pop his shoulder back into place. Doctors get called in. Fight gets waved off. Obviously, in those moments, right, when you're going back to the corner and you're sitting there, usually most times, or I would say probably 99 times out of 100, I would say, right, you're focused just in on your coach, listening to all the advice coming in from your corner. At any point, did you happen to maybe just like, what the hell is going on over there with all the commotion that was going on? So did you realize in between rounds that something was going on?
Yeah, that's when I kind of realized it. We were talking and talking about what was going to we were anticipating a second round. So we were talking about what was working, what wasn't, and then as my coach is looking at me, I look Eric and I see over his shoulder what was going on the other end of the cage there, and that's when I knew something was up. And it was right near the end of the round, like when the seconds had to leave, and we stood up off the stool, and he was kind of messing with his arm, and his coach Gibson was pulling on it and whatever. And then the doctors came in, and yeah, it was kind of out of my control. I was just kind of standing there trying to stay, not get distracted or anything, because from what it looked like, he was kind of going like this, like it was back in, and he was like kind of getting ready to go, and crowd started to kind of cheer out, and I was like, okay, here we go, let's go again. And I was so ready for round two. I was all warmed up finally. I was in the zone. So I was kind of just standing there staring dead eye, just didn't want to lose focus because it was out of my control. So it was either going to go or it wasn't. And I was just waiting for the call. So I was just staring right at the scene and waiting to see, am I going or are we not? And then they ended up calling it, obviously for the better. If his arm wasn't back in, then there's no way he should have been continuing and just causing more damage. And like I said, man, I hope he didn't make it worse just from what they were trying to do in cage there.
And then afterwards, too, obviously there's that moment where, all right, come on, bring it in. They're going to raise your hand to win. I know Aaron did, say something to you. Wasn't picked up on the microphone. Did you guys have nice words afterwards, or just kind of what was his kind of reaction there inside the cage?
Yeah, it was just more of like, hey man, my arm's out, my shoulder's dislocated. There's nothing I can do. And I just said, sorry, man. Like this whole fight has been a kind of a gong show from the very first. My fractured orbital 9 days out from the last one, to him getting a short notice opponent, to us getting it rebooked, and then a long 12-week camp for both of us, and then whatever it is, one round of fighting and he was compromised for half of it. So it just blew out his shoulder, you know. So I mean, it's just one of those things that we're like, we can't get this thing right. You know, it's kind of a little bit of a joke there. We're like, sorry, man. He was in good spirits, and I think he booted out of there pretty quick to go get medical attention, and that was it. That's the last I saw of him, and I just, like I said, I hope it's not the extent of the injury, because he's young, man, and he's got such a bright future. Like, well, clearly, you know. So I would just hate for something like this to be nagging for longer, just because of the actions that were done afterwards.
So now let's get into the big question here for you. I mean, what's next? You mentioned it's been a long road just to get here, from yourself being injured, kind of only getting one round in here. You said, what, one round in the last 10 months. Obviously, you're eager to get back inside there, I'm sure. And not only that, too, but this matchup at the time, it was, I think, 3 versus 7. I haven't seen if Bellator came out and updated the ranking system or not. I imagine, obviously, you're moving up in the ranks, so you're probably going to be in that 5-ish area there, I'm sure. So you're getting real close to that title fight. I know you want to chase down that title at some juncture in your career here. So just kind of what's next? What's kind of the roadmap looking like for you to chase down this title?
Yeah, I mean, now that the kind of landscape is settled a little bit, there was a lot of big featherweight fights from the Dublin show, and then just, you know, this past weekend, even with AJ fighting at lightweight, he's still, you know, such a prominent name at 45 that it kind of settled a little bit more now. Now we kind of have an idea of what's going forward. Aaron, obviously, he's going to have to sort out his injury. You're probably looking at an AJ and Pitbull trilogy if Pitbull doesn't go down, which I don't think he will. But if he does, then that leaves the title. Who knows what's going to happen with the title, because I don't think AJ's coming back unless it's for, you know, Pitbull. But that trilogy kind of that seems like what Bellator would want anyways, especially the nature around my win. And so the thing that makes the most sense for me would be Pedro in Ireland. And I'd already talked to Mike and Ali, my manager, and Bellator seems to like it, and the timeline seems to work. He just fought, you know, a week and a half ago, so the timeline for both of us works. I think he's ranked 4th. He just had a big win over Mads. So title picture wise, we both need that one more win. So I think if he wants a title shot, he's going to have to go through me. If I want a title shot, I'm going to have to go through him. And so that this fight, it sells itself. We've had a lot of back and forth between the two of us for the last couple of years here. So it literally makes sense from a ranking perspective, for a storyline, for everything. And I've made it a career of going into backyards and fighting hometown guys. So I would love to go to Ireland and fight Pedro out there. And that's even something that could even main event it. You never know. You know, I'd love 5 rounds, get me warmed up for the belt. And that's it, man. That's kind of what I don't see many more options outside of Pedro at this point. And then 5, you know, I think that's 5 months from now, but it's the only thing really announced outside of the rest of this year. And I don't think December would be realistic turnaround time for me, just because I don't think any other featherweights are ready at that time. So.
And it's funny, I actually interviewed Pedro right before his fight, and he had mentioned kind of pretty similar what you were saying, that he imagines, all right, he has to take care of business, get a win. He probably still needs one more win before getting a crack at the title. So it does kind of like the stars do kind of align, so to speak, for a matchup like that. And I want to ask you this question, too, because you mentioned about going in people's backyards. He mentioned that in his mind, and it's hard to argue with the two, that the Irish fans are the #1 pound for pound fans in the world. He loves fighting in front of them because of the energy it gives them. Just talk about, you know, obviously a lot has to happen for a matchup like that to take place anyway. But if it does, if you do go over to Ireland, just, I mean, how do you like mentally even prepare to go up against, you know, the Irish fans, because they're obviously going to be cheering for their boy, and they're going to be giving you a lot of stuff in the lead up to it, I'm sure.
I thrive on that kind of stuff, man. I would love that. Like, bring all the booze. And I got nothing but respect for the Irish fans, man. Every time I've watched the Dublin cards, I can just, all I think about is how crazy that atmosphere is, and like the fans are just nuts there. That's awesome. And so if I got to go in there and experience it on the other end, I'm cool with that. You know, it's like I said, I fought in Brazil against a Brazilian, and those guys are chanting that they want to kill me. You know, uvo moheia. So I'm used to this kind of stuff. I'm it wouldn't be, it's just noise, you know. At the end of the day, it would just be me and Pedro in the cage. So yeah, I think bring it on. Let them have the crowd. Let them have that energy, and I'll feed off of it too.
All right, so that's to start wrapping some things up here. I want to talk a little bit about training. So for you, right, you make the decision, right, you're Canadian, to make the move to Extreme Couture in Las Vegas. Just talk a little bit about that move and why you decided to ultimately do it. And then on top of that, too, I have to ask this question along the training lines. If I have this correctly, since you joined the gym, I believe your record's like 8-2. Obviously, it's been a very successful move for you in your career. Just what is it about that gym that kind of makes things all click and come together here for you?
Yeah. So the start to the first part, the move was a long time coming. You know, right after my first loss to Volkanovski, I was just training back in Canada and kind of just comfortable. You know, I was 11-0. I was doing well in the UFC, 3-0 in the UFC, and yeah, just kind of doing what I could and not really hitting that next level, coaching, training wise, training partners and everything. And after that, I started coming out to Vegas because of the PI just opened, and I was on the roster, so I was taking advantage of that. And I just fell in love with the city, man. Las Vegas, it was just the fight capital. You know, that's when I started dropping into Extreme and met Coach Eric. I think one of the first days right in Extreme, and we were hitting pads later on that week, and we just clicked right away. The team environment at Extreme, you know, it's such a close knit team, and then you also get a lot of people coming in through those doors, rotating in, just because they're just visiting Vegas, with whether it's fights in town and his teammates of guys, or guys coming in to test at the PI, or whatever it is. It just seems like there's always constantly new guys coming in, and there's tons of gyms here, so that just attracts more guys. And so the amount of bodies out here is just incredible. So anyway, so I was going back and forth. I was doing my camps here and then flying back to BC in between camps, and like that was kind of my downtime. I have my wife, well, my fiance at the time, and my dogs, and we owned a house out there, and all my family's out there. So I was rooted there. It's pretty hard to uproot. But then good old COVID came around and just completely destroyed the traveling. You know, it was really hard for me to go back and forth, and with the quarantining and all the guidelines, borders closed. So obviously at that point I had to make the decision and fully commit to down here, so I didn't have to do the back and forth. And so I came back to Canada, packed up everything, the dogs, my now wife, her job kind of got shut down with the COVID situation. So she was able to come out here with me, and we just made a full commitment to Las Vegas. And that was right when I signed with Bellator. And so it was just, all the timing kind of came together, and now this is home for us both. And I just get to go back to visit in BC. It's like a little vacation time now, you know, little here and there, 4-day weekends and whatnot. But now this is home, and it just elevated my game, because now when I'm not training for a fight, I'm still training at the best possible place I can, rather than being back in BC and kind of like off season, and then only being out here when I'm getting ready for fights. So now I'm year round, I'm skill building and training my butt off. So, and I think that is just kind of what has shown in my work now.
And you had mentioned your wife several times throughout that answer. I wanted to actually ask you about her. I mean, what a good sport she is. Like I see on your Instagram, right? She's there for media days with you. You're cutting weight before the fight. She's right there in the hotel room with you. I know a lot of fighters, you know, in a lot of those moments, it's like, okay, I'm glad my family's here, but you know, go away. We'll touch base afterwards. I got to take care of business. But yet she's still right there. And obviously when you're fighting, she's right there in the front row. Just how much has she led to a lot of your success too? Because obviously having a good partner like that makes everything else easier in life.
Yeah, she's all in, man. That's why it's so nice. It's because she's so committed. It means just as much as her as it does to me, you know. And during fight week, when your emotions are running crazy high, and you know, I'm starving and I'm focusing on the weight cut and the fight itself, and she's just really good at being able to separate, everyday life to fight camp life. She knows it's short lived. It's just a week of fight week, and so it's awesome having her there just because the comfortability, and she's all in. What do I need? I grab you whatever, fill your waters, help with the weight cuts, whatever, and then my team's there as well, obviously. And she knows a good divide of like, okay, he needs to be with his guys now, and she'll go and leave and do whatever. And I'll be there with my team, and leading up to like fight day, I don't really even see her. She kind of leaves early and I'm hanging out with my guys. But I also get to separate that as well. I'm not just with my coaches all week. I can kind of separate and be by myself, be with her. And we have a good routine, as these camps go on, and all throughout camp, she's really good with me, and kind of like my soundboard in the sense of working through all camp, what we need to work on as well. And she motivates me. And if I'm sore and tired and don't want to go to the gym, she's like, get your ass to the gym. Let's go. So it just helps. She's definitely a huge part of the team, but then it's good because she can take that backseat and, go sit in the crowd afterward. On the lead up, she's there. And then when it's fight time or fight day, it's me and my coaches, and she can sit in the back and wait for it to all be done. And then we go, oh, we're getting my dog in the corner back there. So yeah, she's a huge part of it, man. And so I'm lucky to have her.
Yeah, I bet, man. Your dog's coming down the stairs too. I might come jump on you there. So
Yeah.
I'll let you get running there, man. I really appreciate all the time here today. It's been a nice conversation. I know you answered a lot of questions about a lot of different stuff. I appreciate all the time. Just last thing before you roll out, though, go ahead, plug your social media so people know where to follow you at. You have any management or sponsors or any teammates or coaches, family, friends, whoever, anybody like that you got to give shout outs to? Take it away.
Yeah, man. Just mostly for content, it's all been going through Instagram, Jeremy Kennedy 145. Sorry, it's coming up here now. But yeah, so anything you wanna see, you wanna follow me, get some insider look of my day-to-day life, I would check out my Instagram, and then you'll see this guy too.
There he is.
Smoking Joe Fraser, smoking Joe the boxer.